The galaxy had known war for centuries as the Alliance and the Dominion fought in a deadly struggle for control of the stars, while entire civilizations were caught in the crossfire to be either absorbed or wiped out with each passing day. The Dominion's reach grew stronger, its fleets of ships and devastating weapons tearing across the universe, leaving little but ruins in their wake. The Alliance had managed to hold its ground, but just barely. Their forces stretched thin, unable to secure more than a handful of planets. They had fought this battle for as long as anyone could remember, with no clear end in sight. Then one day something changed. An anomaly detected on the edge of the galaxy, a strange signal that no one had heard before, its origin unknown, and its power unlike anything the Alliance had encountered before. Scouts were dispatched to investigate, expecting to find nothing more than a fluke or a malfunctioning system, but when they arrived they found Earth. A small blue planet on the outskirts of the galaxy that had long been written off as insignificant. Humanity had advanced to space travel, but not on the scale of galactic warfare. They were thought to be primitive and isolated. No one had expected Earth to be a player in this vast war. When the first ship descended into Earth's atmosphere, it was met with silence. The inhabitants were unaware of the larger conflict raging across the stars. Still in the early stages of exploring their own solar system, they had no knowledge of the Alliance or the Dominion, yet their technology was advancing at a rapid pace, their military capabilities unknown to the stars that looked upon them in awe. The scouts made contact with Earth's leaders. They were cautious at first, unsure whether to trust these mysterious visitors. But the humans were no fools. They could tell that the strangers were not here for peace or diplomacy. Their eyes were cold and calculating. But before they could make any demands, something remarkable happened. Earth's technology began to come online. Weapons and ships of incredible power that the aliens had never seen before began to spring up across the planet. An entire fleet of warships materialized out of seemingly nowhere. They were sleek and terrifyingly advanced, outmatching anything the Alliance had ever dreamed of. In a sudden moment, the galaxy's first true surprise had arrived. The Alliance diplomats who had been sent to negotiate with the humans were left speechless. They had expected a simple, peaceful agreement with a weak species that would add little to the war effort. Instead, they found themselves face to face with a planet that was already preparing for battle, preparing not just to defend, but to dominate the space between the stars. They saw the ships and the technology, but they also saw something else. They saw humans with a fire in their eyes, an intensity that no one had expected, a hunger for power and control that went beyond survival. They had arrived late to the war, but humanity wasn't here to follow orders. They were here to change everything. This was no longer just a fight between two warring factions of aliens. It was something new, something fresh. And with it came an uncertainty that no one had prepared for. The arrival of Earth had changed everything, and the true war had only just begun. The Alliance diplomats sat in a room with Earth's leaders, trying to make sense of the situation. They had traveled light years across the galaxy, expecting a simple negotiation, a matter of securing support from a species barely out of its infancy. Yet what they found was a planet already armed and ready for war. Their advanced ships and weapons far surpassed anything the Alliance had ever known. Their technology was a marvel, but it was the humans themselves who caused the most confusion. No one could predict their behavior, their willingness to stand firm in the face of overwhelming odds, their unshakable resolve to retain control over their own fate. This wasn't a planet looking to be a passive ally or a side in the fight against the Dominion. This was a planet preparing to take the fight to the heart of the enemy and lead the charge for victory. The diplomats spoke of the Alliance's long-standing struggle, the costs of war, the billions of lives lost as the Dominion advanced unchecked across the galaxy. They promised Earth the protection and support of countless civilizations. If they would join their ranks, their fleets could unite with Earth's own, their resources pooled together to finally stop the Dominion's endless expansion. Earth's leaders remained silent through much of the conversation. They listened closely with a calm understanding, as though they were simply waiting for the diplomats to finish their speeches. The room was thick with tension as the final plea was made. Earth could be part of the galactic defense. They could be a hero in a war that spanned the stars. But no one expected the reply they received. General Samuel Harper stood up to speak. The humans had listened to the Alliance's offer, But they had their own terms. His words were sharp and clear. They were not interested in joining the war on the Alliance's terms. The galaxy had assumed they were unprepared for war. But now they understood that Earth wasn't here to follow orders. They were here to lead the charge. Humanity would fight, but only on their own terms. No one was going to dictate what they should or should not do in this war. They had seen the carnage caused by the Dominion, and they would not sit idly by and let it continue, but they would not be subjugated to another power. They would fight on their own terms, or not at all. Harper's voice rang with confidence, and the Alliance diplomats were taken aback. They had not expected this response. They had expected eagerness. They had expected Earth to fall in line, but humanity was as stubborn as they were clever. The humans were not blind to the stakes of the war. They understood the gravity of the situation. They had known war before on their own planet, but it was different this time. It was not their world alone at risk. It was the entire galaxy. The fate of countless civilizations hung in the balance, and yet Earth would not bend their will to anyone else. The Alliance diplomats could see that this was a planet of untapped potential. Humans had strength. They could not yet fully comprehend themselves. They had technology that could turn the tide of the war, and they were determined to fight it on their own terms. The conversation shifted from diplomacy to strategy. Harper and the Earth Command Staff presented their plans, their fleets, their weapons, and their goals. They would join the fight, but not under the Alliance's banner. They would forge their own path and invite others to join them if they could prove themselves worthy of Earth's trust. The diplomats were left with no choice but to accept the new reality. Earth was no longer just a participant in the war. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the fate of the galaxy was now in their hands. But even as the meeting ended, one question lingered on the minds of everyone in the room. How had Earth been able to develop this level of technology so quickly? And what else did they have hidden away waiting to be unleashed? The news of Earth's decision spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The Alliance leaders scrambled to understand what had just happened. They had assumed humanity would simply fall into place, an eager ally ready to join the ranks of those fighting the Dominion. But instead, Earth had declared its own path, a bold declaration of independence that sent ripples through every faction involved in the war. The Alliance was uncertain, but there was no denying the potential of humanity. They had seen the technology Earth had already unleashed. It was unlike anything they had ever encountered, and there was a growing sense of unease among the Dominion leaders as well when they heard of the new threat emerging from the distant world. Back on Earth, the world was divided. Some welcomed the idea of standing on their own. Others feared what would come of this new war-driven path humanity had found itself on. There were factions within the global government pushing for a more diplomatic approach. They argued that the planet had a chance to rebuild and foster peaceful relations with the stars. But the majority were not so sure. After all, Earth had fought its own wars for centuries. They understood conflict. They understood what was at stake. And when General Harper spoke to the world, he made it clear that the time for hesitation had passed. Humanity would not watch from the sidelines. While their future was being decided by others, the planet's defense forces were rapidly expanded in preparation for a war, the likes of which they had never seen. General Harper's vision was simple. Earth would not just defend itself, it would go on the offensive. The warships that had already been deployed were nothing compared to what Earth had in the works. Humanity was building a fleet to rival even the most established powers of the galaxy. The weapons systems were still in development, but the designs were already staggering. The most advanced technology humans had ever created was being fitted to their new ships, and the government poured all their resources into a singular goal. The fight against the Dominion was not just for survival, it was for freedom. Earth would take the battle to the enemy's doorstep and crush them. The pressure mounted as the Dominion began to take notice of the growing force humanity was assembling. Their scouts reported strange anomalies along the edges of Earth's space. It wasn't just ships or military technology. They were picking up the Dominion's intelligence operations. Soon uncovered the heart of Earth's surprise. Humanity had perfected the use of gravitic fields powerful enough to disrupt the most formidable of enemy vessels. These weapons had the potential to destroy entire fleets in mere moments. The Dominion leadership found itself grappling with the unimaginable. They had not expected a race like humanity to possess such power so quickly. Their arrogance and underestimation of Earth's capabilities would prove to be their downfall. As the tension between the two forces built, the stage was set for the first real test of Earth's military might. Harper and his command staff made their preparations. The fleet was ready, and the new weapon systems were coming online. But something was still missing, a key component that could turn the tide once and for all. The final piece of humanity's secret weapon was still locked away, hidden deep beneath Earth's surface, a technological marvel that even their brightest minds had only begun to understand. Rumors spread through the ranks that the weapon was not just a tool of war, it was a game changer, something capable of reshaping the entire battlefield. They had kept it hidden from everyone, even the Alliance diplomats were unaware of its existence. But soon the Dominion would learn the truth. Earth had arrived late to the war, but it was about to unleash a power no one could have predicted. The first strike from the Dominion came without warning. Their forces descended upon Earth's outer colonies as their scouts reported a rapid buildup of human warships on the edge of their space. The Dominion's commanders believed this was Earth's first move in the galactic conflict. They had underestimated humanity's will to fight, and now they intended to squash it before it could grow into something more dangerous. The initial assault was swift and brutal. Their fleet of colossal warships emerged from hyperspace like a storm of destruction, but Earth was ready. They had been preparing for this moment for months. As the Dominion fleet entered Earth's space, they were met with a sight that sent shockwaves through their ranks. Humanity's new ships weren't just faster and stronger than anything the Dominion had encountered. They were something entirely different. Earth's fleet didn't engage in the usual tactics of direct confrontation. They were ghosts slipping in and out of the battlefield like shadows. The Dominion ships fired relentlessly, but the human vessels seemed to disappear before their very eyes. Each time a blast of energy tore through the void, it found only empty space. The Dominion commanders couldn't understand it. They had not seen technology like this before. The secret weapon Earth had kept hidden from everyone was revealed that day. The human ships utilized a form of cloaking technology so advanced that it bent light and electromagnetic signals around them, rendering them nearly invisible to all conventional sensors. It wasn't perfect, but it gave Earth's fleet the advantage they needed to strike swiftly and unpredictably. Their targets never knew what hit them. Whole squads of Dominion fighters were wiped out in mere moments as the human ships emerged from the shadows and unleashed hellfire. With pinpoint accuracy, the Dominion forces were left reeling. They had never encountered a foe that fought in such a way, and their initial attacks began to falter. General Harper's voice echoed through the command deck as he issued orders to press forward. The humans weren't just fighting to defend their colonies, they were fighting to send a message. The Dominion would learn that Earth was no easy target. They would feel the full force of humanity's determination to survive and thrive. Harper had always believed that the true power of Earth lay not in its technology, but in its people, their ingenuity, their will to fight against impossible odds. Humanity had done the unthinkable by even surviving long enough to join the war, and now they would prove that they were a force to be reckoned with. On the ground below, Earth's defense forces engaged the Dominion's ground troops in fierce battles across the outer colonies. The Dominion, thinking they would simply crush humanity's forces, were blindsided by Earth's unrelenting tactics. Humans fought like cornered animals. They used every advantage of their environment and their resourcefulness to turn the tide in their favor. In one colony after another, the Dominion forces were overwhelmed. Despite their superior numbers, they could not outthink the humans, who seemed to anticipate their every move. The tide of the war was beginning to shift. The Dominion's invincible reputation was starting to crack, and the first real victory for humanity was won that day. But it wasn't just a victory on the battlefield. It was a statement. Earth had arrived late to the war, but they were here to stay, and they were going to make the Dominion regret ever underestimating them. The shockwaves of that first strike rippled across the galaxy as the Alliance watched in awe, and the Dominion, now fully aware of the threat humanity posed, began to prepare for a conflict unlike anything they had ever seen before. The Dominion was stunned after Earth's first strike. They had expected a brief skirmish, a flash of resistance, before their overwhelming might crushed it. But what they faced was far more than they had bargained for. General Harper's tactics were too unpredictable. The human ships moved like wraiths, slipping through their lines, attacking with precision and disappearing before the Dominion could respond, and the human ground forces fought with the ferocity of a species that had known nothing but conflict for centuries. The Dominion had never encountered an enemy so willing to use every ounce of their ingenuity to win. They had expected to wipe out Earth's colonies, but instead they found themselves on the back foot. Earth's fleet had only begun to showcase its true power. Their ships were now equipped with a weapon that no one had anticipated, a weapon that could alter the very nature of space itself. The human scientists had unlocked a method of manipulating gravitic fields on a scale never before seen. The pulse engine, a device that could distort gravity around enemy ships, making them vulnerable to attack or even tearing them apart entirely. The Dominion had no defense against this technology. They had never seen anything like it. Their largest warships were suddenly caught in gravitational forces they couldn't control. They tried to fight back, but it was as if the laws of physics themselves had turned against them. Earth's fleet wasted no time in exploiting this new advantage. Every engagement became a battle of wits and technology. The Dominion's vast numbers were useless against the new tactics. Humanity employed. Ships that once seemed invincible now found themselves easy targets for the human assault. They could no longer rely on their sheer power to win, and the more they tried to adapt, the more Earth's forces outsmarted them. At every turn, the pulse engine became Earth's greatest weapon. But it was more than just technology that was turning the tide of the war. It was the human spirit, their ability to fight in ways that no one could predict, no one could prepare for. Back in the heart of the Alliance, there was a growing sense of awe and disbelief. As the news of Earth's successes spread despite their late arrival, the humans had proven themselves to be the true game changers in the conflict. Their fleet was growing stronger with each passing day, and their technological innovations were far beyond anything the Alliance had ever imagined. In their desperation, the Alliance turned to Earth and offered more resources, more ships, more allies. But the humans remained steadfast. They would fight their own war, and they would do it on their terms. The Alliance had to adjust to this new reality. Humanity wasn't a subordinate ally. They were an equal partner, and the fate of the galaxy now rested in their hands. The Dominion, meanwhile, was scrambling. Their leadership was in disarray as their military strategies faltered under the weight of Earth's surprise tactics. They began to panic, and in their panic they made a critical mistake. They underestimated the extent of humanity's determination. They thought they could buy time by attacking Earth's homeworld directly, but what they didn't realize was that Earth had prepared for this moment for years. They had been building a fleet that not only rivaled their own, but had the potential to outlast them. When the Dominion fleet finally made its move toward Earth, the humans were ready. They had already established powerful defense grids around their planet, and their pulse engine technology was now at a level where they could disrupt entire fleets in moments. The battle that ensued was nothing short of legendary. The Dominion ships were torn apart as their commanders struggled to comprehend what was happening. The tide of the war was turning, and the galaxy was beginning to realize that Earth was no longer just a participant in the conflict, it was the deciding force. As the Dominion's flagship fell under the weight of Earth's might, the message was clear. Earth had arrived late to the war, but they were here to win, and the Dominion was not prepared for the storm humanity was unleashing across the stars. The shockwaves from Earth's decisive victory reverberated across the galaxy as the Dominion's flagship shattered into fragments. The sight of their once proud fleet crumbling before humanity's surprising might sent ripples of fear and awe throughout the galaxy. The Dominion had long been the terror of the stars. No one dared challenge their supremacy, yet now the most powerful empire in the galaxy was on the defensive, and they knew it was only a matter of time before their entire reign collapsed. The Alliance watched in awe at the unfolding spectacle, but even they were beginning to realize that Earth was no longer just an ally in the war. They were the key to victory. General Harper's leadership had proven to be far more than just tactical brilliance. It was a force of nature, a beacon of hope for the galaxy's oppressed. The human fleet now controlled entire systems, Once thought lost to the Dominion's grasp, with each battle they won, Earth's influence spread further, and their fleet grew ever more formidable. They were unstoppable. The Dominion tried to rally their forces, but their military was stretched thin. Their commanders, unable to adapt to the innovative warfare Earth had brought to the table, the pulse engine had become a weapon of legend, capable of dismantling fleets and shattering the morale of even the most hardened soldiers. And as the battle lines shifted, Earth began to target the heart of the Dominion's empire itself. Earth had not simply built a fleet, they had built a movement, a vision for the galaxy that was entirely their own. Harper's messages to the people of the Alliance and beyond resonated with everyone who had longed for an end to the Dominion's reign of terror. His speeches rallied the oppressed worlds to join humanity's cause. Even those who had once feared Earth's intervention now saw the light. They began to rise up against the Dominion on their own worlds. As the network of rebellion spread across the galaxy, the Dominion found itself encircled on all sides. The walls were closing in, and there was no escape. As Earth's forces pressed toward the Dominion capital, their enemies made one final desperate move. They launched a full-scale counterattack. With every remaining ship, they could muster a last-ditch effort to break Earth's hold on the galaxy. The battle that ensued was unlike anything anyone had ever witnessed. The two fleets collided in the depths of space with enough firepower to shatter entire planets. The Dominion ships, desperate to prove their dominance, came in waves, hoping to overwhelm Earth's forces with sheer numbers. But humanity had learned long ago to never bet on numbers alone. They had learned to use their environment, their tactics, their weapons in ways the Dominion could not even begin to predict. Earth's fleet tore through the Dominion's ranks with ruthless efficiency. Their cloaking devices slipped between attacks, leaving no room for retaliation. The pulse engine wreaked havoc on the Dominion's largest ships, distorting gravity and rendering their fleets helpless as Earth's fleet cut through them like a hot knife through butter. As the final battle raged on, Harper received word that a fleet of Dominion reinforcements was en route to turn the tide once more. But he knew the truth. The Dominion had already lost. Their empire was crumbling, and no amount of reinforcements would save them. Now the galaxy was watching, and they were waiting for the inevitable end. The Dominion's once unassailable forces were disintegrating under the pressure of humanity's relentless assault. Their leaders, once untouchable, now found themselves in a desperate scramble for survival, but their time was up. With the last of the Dominion ships destroyed, the remaining pockets of resistance scattered across the galaxy, and their capital left in ruins, Earth's victory was complete. The galaxy had been liberated from the iron grip of the Dominion, and it was humanity that had led the charge to victory. But as the dust settled, one question lingered: what would the galaxy look like now that Earth had not only saved it, but reshaped it forever? Would Earth's influence be a force for good, or would their newfound power become just another form of domination in a galaxy forever altered by their surprise arrival? As the Dominion's final hold on the galaxy crumbled, Earth stood victorious. But there was no celebration, not yet. There was still much to be done. The war had ended, but the true challenge was just beginning. With the Dominion's empire in ruins, and their leaders either defeated or scattered across the stars, the galaxy was left to pick up the pieces. The Alliance was left questioning what their place would be in this new order. Now that Earth had shown its true power, the humans had arrived late to the war, and yet they had rewritten the rules of the galaxy in a matter of months. The once proud civilizations of the Alliance had been forced to acknowledge that Earth's influence would shape the future of the galaxy, and the question remained: how would humanity wield this power? General Harper and Earth's leaders faced difficult choices as they stood on the precipice of a new era. The humans had won the war, but what did it mean to win such a conflict? How would they establish peace after the devastation? How would they prevent another Dominion from rising from the ashes? There were many who feared what would come next. They feared Earth's new position of strength, and wondered if the humans would simply replace the Dominion as the new conquerors of the stars. Would they impose their will on the galaxy with the same ruthlessness that had once defined the Dominion? Or would they use their power to build something better, something that would ensure the lasting peace of the galaxy? Humanity had always struggled with the weight of its own power even in their own history. When they were small isolated nations, they had fought wars of conquest and domination. It was in their nature to push forward to seek new lands and new frontiers. But humanity had also known loss and suffering, and in the ashes of their past, they had learned to rebuild, to learn from their mistakes. They had forged a new path through the fire of conflict. And now they faced the greatest challenge of all, learning how to lead a galaxy that had been torn apart by war. To the Alliance's shock, Earth did not seek dominance. Instead, they began to work towards something different, something unprecedented. They proposed a council, a coalition of the galaxy's most powerful factions, each with a voice in shaping the future, a democratic system, where the voice of the many would be heard above the voice of the few. They did not seek to rule over the galaxy, they sought to build it together. They extended their hand to the once oppressed worlds, to the countless races and civilizations who had long suffered under the Dominion's iron fist, offering them a place at the table, offering them a say in their future. For the first time in history, the galaxy was offered the possibility of unity instead of domination. It was a bold move, a risky move, one that many were hesitant to accept, but humanity had earned the trust of the galaxy through their actions, their victories, their willingness to fight for something greater than themselves. And slowly worlds began to fall in line, some out of hope, some out of fear, but all with the recognition that Earth had proven itself to be the beacon of what was possible when a species dared to dream beyond the limits of its past. But even as Earth took the first steps toward rebuilding the galaxy, something darker loomed on the horizon. Deep in the forgotten corners of the universe, the remnants of the Dominion's highest command still lived, hiding among the shadows, biding their time, preparing for the day when they could rise again. The galaxy had been freed, but the true test of humanity's resolve had yet to come. It would not be the rebuilding of empires or the forging of alliances that would decide their future. It would be the quiet war that was already beginning to stir in the darkness, a war that no one saw coming. But Earth was ready. They had always been ready, because humanity had always known that survival was just the beginning. It was what came after that would define them forever. Months had passed since Earth's victory over the Dominion, and the galaxy was slowly rebuilding. The coalition was taking shape as countless races and factions joined together under a single banner for the first time in history. But even as the galaxy began to look toward a new future, there were those who never truly trusted humanity's intentions. Many believed Earth's rise to power had been too sudden, too overwhelming. They feared the humans were not as benevolent as they appeared behind closed doors. The leaders of Earth were aware of the distrust. They were not naive. They knew that they had won this war through sheer determination and technological superiority. But now they were facing a more dangerous challenge, one that could tear the fragile peace they had worked so hard to build apart. Harper and Earth's council began to focus on the delicate process of rebuilding the galaxy, but there were still too many questions left unanswered. What would happen to the Dominion's remaining forces scattered in the outer reaches of the galaxy? What would Earth do if other factions tried to seize power in the vacuum left behind? Would humanity's influence extend too far and too fast for the galaxy to handle? Meanwhile, in the deepest corners of space, remnants of the Dominion's elite command had retreated to their hidden strongholds, scattered across forgotten worlds. Their leaders were not defeated. They were simply waiting for the right moment to strike back. They had seen the coalition rise, and they had seen humanity's growing influence, but they had not given up hope. They had retreated to the shadows to bide their time, to plan for the inevitable moment when they could take back what they had lost and retake the galaxy with renewed fury and cunning. They knew Earth was powerful, but they also knew that humanity was still young and vulnerable to mistakes. It would be their weaknesses the Dominion would exploit. On Earth itself, Harper and the Council were faced with growing concerns. From within, they had become the de facto leaders of the galaxy, but their rise had come at a cost. There were those who felt Earth's power was being concentrated too much in the hands of too few, and that it was only a matter of time before the galaxy would once again be ruled by a single, unchecked power. The leaders of Earth knew that if they were not careful, the same mistakes the Dominion had made could be their own. The power to destroy was no longer the question. The question was how to wield it wisely and with integrity. But Earth's resolve remained unshaken. Their leaders knowing that the future of the galaxy rested on their decisions, made a vow to build something better than the past, something that could endure the test of time. The first steps toward true unity had been taken, but now they had to ensure that peace would not be just the absence of war, but the presence of justice, the presence of fairness and opportunity for all that could not allow the galaxy to return to what it had been under the Dominion's rule. It was then that the Shadow War began. The remnants of the Dominion struck first, not with fleets or armies, but with whispers and spies hidden in the corners of the galaxy, infiltrating the coalition. Sowing discord among the member worlds, they began to spread fear, misinformation, and mistrust among those who had just joined the coalition. And at work, the cracks began to appear. Alliances weakened and divisions formed at the heart of the coalition's leadership. Earth found itself not just fighting to keep the peace, but fighting to preserve the fragile trust they had worked so hard to build. In the depths of space, the final remnants of the Dominion waited, watching as the galaxy teetered on the edge of chaos. They knew that the war was far from over. The first phase had been won, but the real battle had just begun. The Dominion had always been good at one thing: survival, and they would wait for the galaxy to fall apart before they made their next move. But humanity had already learned from the past. They knew this was not the time to relax, it was the time to prepare. Earth had arrived late to the war, but they had proven that they were capable of changing the galaxy's destiny. And in the shadows where the Dominion waited, Earth was already watching, waiting for the next surprise to strike.